some of the UI there, some of the features and functionalities around that UI. We've also gone through timesheets and timesheet management, how the process of the timesheet works from clocking in, clocking out, the different ways to clock in and clock out, as well as obviously how the timesheet is then created and or then approved, authorized, committed, payrolled, and obviously that payroll file is created in what we call the pay runs. So that's sort of like an overview of the headline core functions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the settings screen at the moment, and you're going to spend a lot of time with Charlene on this tomorrow, but it's going to give this, my part, is going to give you a lot of sort of insight into the flow and how a setup is done and what are the features and functionalities available for each of our customers. Just give me a second. I want to close my door.
Okay.
Yeah, so under the settings bar, this is sort of the driver engine of Rubler. So this is where everything happens from a setup, integration point of view, customization and configurable part of the system all happens in the settings bar. So what you're going to notice, I'm going to go into detail every one of them. I'm going to touch on them, and then when you hear about them tomorrow and see actually how they practically work, that's going to make a little bit more sense to you. But let's just start with the importers. So being an HR system, being a workforce management system, and the fact that customer a lot of the time has data already available for us to set up Rubler, they typically send us information, and Charlene will look at that with you tomorrow. But they send us information so we can set up or we can configure Rubler. And a lot of that happens from a importer's point of view. So taking an Excel sheet, dumping it into Rubler and getting the system set up from scratch. So we can essentially import every one of these core items, and they'll make a little bit more sense when you get into the implementation side. But let's
All right,
say
so that was a question that I was actually pondering. So you request or you require from a potential customer X, Y, and Z for them to forward to you,
correct,
probably in a common delimited file, CSV file, Excel,
correct,
and then so that you can import. Because I was perhaps under the impression that, let's say tomorrow in Cape Town, I go and sign ABC Coffee Shop, that I'd have to physically sit there on their property and capture everything they need captured before they go live.
No worries, mate. You don't have to do that.
Okay,
so
great.
Part of the so Charlene's going to show you. We have what we call a Monday.com management board, which is essentially a project plan that we use for a customer. We give them and we say, look, you give us this, and then we go to the next step, right?
Yes.
So an example here is the customer's got 150 different positions as an example, right? Mm-hmm. No, you don't have to go and add one by one by one. Get an Excel sheet, you go into importers for permissions, you select the sheet. So it doesn't actually matter how they give it to you, funny enough. So it doesn't matter what format they give it to you with what headers or whatever it may be, because you're going to map it.
Yes.
So what you're going to do is you're going to bring that file in to the system over here. You're going to say that this position equals that location or the whole company, and boom, Bob's your auntie, all the positions are in, right? So yes, it's all bulk imported, even down to, from an employee point of view, uploading 200-300 employees. Well, the employees that we loaded in your system, there's about 70, took about 3 minutes to get all those employees up and done. So, and you can also have a template. So if a customer doesn't have anything, like, well, we don't have anything on Excel, you could just download the full template here, and you can forward that on to them to populate. Okay. Some of the naming conventions and like when I show you this Excel will be a bit confusing to a customer, but then we've got a supporting help document which tells you, okay, what does this mean? What must I put in this column? So when I look at all these columns, like, first name makes sense, middle name makes sense, right? Preferred name makes sense. Another name, okay, what's that, right? Employment type, 1, 2, or 3. So we've got a supporting document behind this that a customer will get out of our help section, which will say employment type 1 is full-time, employment type 2 is part-time, and employment type 3 is casual. So essentially they go and do some of the grunt work. A lot of the time, if they've got a system that they're already using, like if they're using Deputy, they can download the shit from Deputy and we can upload it, you know? Yes. Same thing. Sorry, I'm recording this. I mustn't swear. Anyway, but yeah, like ZAID type, right? Is that a citizen or what do you call it? Asylum seeker, or whatever it may be. Yes. All of that information. So there is some examples that we put in here for customers, obviously, to utilize, so they get an idea of what we're looking for, etc. So those are the importers, and we can import almost everything into the system. So, you know, we can import things like bank accounts or locations, pay types. So if they've got 150 pay types, which they never have, won't have normal time, overtime, all the basic ones are there, right? So sometimes it might be easier just to capture them one by one, and sometimes it's easier to throw them in via a onboarding or an onboarding piece. Even if we want to do bulk onboarding invites. So let's say customer's got no information. They know the person's name, email address, and surname. They don't have their bank account details. They don't have anything, right? You can almost say, right, well, let's send them all an invite. The one you got,
yes,
in one shot. So we can upload an Excel sheet with all the employees' names and their email addresses, pump it in, and then it will send them all an invite in one shot, and they can go and complete all the information. Sometimes that's a better way because then the data's clean. You have the latest address, you have the latest bank account number, you know. That sometimes you'll find that some customers actually do not keep good enough records of these type of things. What you'll also see is create company. So this is where you are going to go to create a new company. So you're going to go to that XYZ restaurant in Cape Town, and they're going to say, let's go for Rubler. You're going to say, all right, I want to create a new company, and it's going to be linked to the tablet POS. So like in a tree, yes. Right? So you're going to say, well, what's it? XYZ company in Cape Town. You're going to choose the country, obviously South Africa. Its primary location name might be the name of, you know, Klein Jan, which is a client, by the way. Klein Jan, heard him on the radio the other day. Klein Jan, and then, you know, we're going to set up it's in Johannesburg and it's in South Africa. Then you're going to submit. It's going to create that company immediately, a blank, fresh company underneath the tablet POS portfolio, and that's how simple it is to create a new company. Charlene's going to talk to you around a couple of processes around this, which enable support then to get activation, that they know that they now need to support this customer from a support point of view. But again, we can discuss those things in our workshop in the coming weeks.
Yes.
Manage system users. So system users are people that need access to the API or any integration type users. And typically we're going to make a system user for the Blue Sheets guys. So, you know, if we want to connect Lightspeed to Rubler, we'll create Blue Sheets as a system user. So it's anything that where the user is not an employee, he's not a support person, he's a system user. They're hitting the database with some sort of information, etc. Mate, give me 2 seconds. Just my daughter, when she it's kind of like, you know, you take it. Bella, what's up? I'm on a call. Is it urgent? Okay. Okay, I'll phone you straight after my meeting, okay? Okay, cheers, bye. Yep. Then we got locations, which you've seen. That's where we set up locations. And obviously, how you set up the locations is like from the tree and then the sub-location under that. You can have multiple headers. Charlene's going to go through what to tick, what not to tick, what does rosterable mean, what does rosterable not mean. Obviously, in this case, like the head office doesn't necessarily need to be rosterable, right? Because you're not going to roster people at the head office, but you might want to, you know, you're going to do it for the sub location. So So, you know, you've got all
you
those.
don't want your directors on a roster.
100%, right?
Yeah.
And you can keep all your directors under head office, so they're protected from any of the other sub locations and visibility there as well, which Charlene will go through with you in the next couple of days. Employee settings we don't use as a bit of a legacy part of our software. Probably will remove it in the next couple of weeks because it actually serves no function, so I'm not going to go into that. Employee access is where we give access to employees in bulk. So instead of doing it one by one, so this employee's got access to that location, this employee's got access to that location. What we can do here is we can do it in bulk. So we can actually give, you know, this employee access to that location and at this role straight out of here. Or we can go and do it in bulk where we select all of these people and say, well, they must all have access to a specific location, you know. So they must all have access to front of house and they must all in that location be employees. And what you'll notice is that now if you go into any of these people's employee master files, they all have that access to that secondary location where they only used to have access to head office. So effectively giving them access to multiple locations very easily and configurably, essentially. Restore employees, so that's if I've terminated a whole bunch of employees, I can bring them back. And that typically happens when you've got casual people that go, they never come back. Well, they don't come back for months, and then they come back at a later stage. Employee service data will be spoken about tomorrow and Friday, and that's just around the service from SimplePay or from the payroll engine and how those people are connected between the two systems. Positions, you've obviously seen, this is where we set up positions and create positions against a location or a specific or company-wide. Now, there's a couple of tabs here that she'll go through with you in the next couple of days, but just so you understand, you can make a position only available to head office. So the CEO position might only be for the head office, right? You're not going to get a CEO at the back of house. So you have that option to do that, as well as obviously then to make that permission either full-time, part-time, and casual. And what will happen is that when you're doing the onboarding invite, if you select the position bartender, it'll automatically do that piece where it asks you, is this casual, part-time, full-time? It'll automatically select part-time. So you can take some work out of the arrangement there. Agreement is typically an Australian thing, so we don't need that. And if this position requires a requirement, that could be the case. You know, to be a first aid worker, you need to be you need to have a first aid certificate. So this position might require a specific
mixology certificate.
100%, 100%. So you can set that up accordingly. The requirements, this is where we set up all our requirements. So this is where we set up the mixology certificate. Right, and we're going to call it an MC. And does this expire? And does it require evidence? Yeah, okay, let's set it up. So when we go to now Nigel or JW Ward, let's go and do that quickly now. So JW Ward has got a certificate, let's say. There he is. And let's go to his requirements quickly. We can go and add a requirement to him that he's got a mixology certificate. The reference is whatever. Expiry date is, let's call it, you know, end of the year, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Name of the course qualification, P54325 or whatever. And we just say South Africa. And evidence, you obviously then upload something from your desktop, or if you're doing this on your phone, then a picture of that. I'm just going to upload any old thing. Oh shit, that might be a bit big. It's a picture. It's a nice picture, but it's I think it's hundreds of them. Oh no, it's not that many. Oh, let me just go.
Maybe it no longer exists.
Yeah, it's probably just it's coming down from my cloud. Anyway, so I'm going to load that, and there it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now just remember, if a shift has this requirement in the shift setup, then only Jay will get that shift because he's the only guy that's got it.
Okay, and if the expiry date was a date that's passed already, it will not allow it to load.
100%.
All right.
So if we just go to the roster quickly, and I'm going to
It
set
comes
up.
in handy with first aid certificates and firefighting certificates.
Oh, 100%, yeah. So let's say I am going to go by location. I'm going to set up a new shift. Just going to leave this one blank as unassigned, right? I'm going to set it up as a bartender. Location, head office. And I'm going to go to advanced here. I'm going to say this shift specifically requires this mixology certificate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the, let's make it on the 27th of the 5th. And we say save. Now, if I go to employee, just look at that from an employee perspective. There should be one right at the bottom here that says unassigned. Can you see it there?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to run smart roster on this. It should, if you haven't got a shift already on the 25th, it should give you that shift. Huh? Did it or not?
Yeah, no, I've got a shift on the 25th.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why. I'm going to try.
If you cancel that shift and then smart roster it.
I'm going to put it on the 27th and run it again.
Okay.
No, I didn't give it to you. It should have. Unless you can't work at that location, let's just have a quick squizzer. These salesmen, I need to buy a car, and these guys are pushing me for like an answer, and I haven't made an answer, but I need to buy a car. I haven't had a car. I've been leasing a car for like a year and a half. But now they say, no, the price increase is coming. Here's a screenshot from head office, and they're pushing the whole sales jargon on me. Okay.
So I take it that you're not going back to Singapore anytime soon.
Well, actually, funny enough, I'm going in July. So I'm going to be going back in July to sort out a few things. But that was one of the reasons why I haven't bought a car. But what I'm spending on leasing a car at the moment is just flipping ridiculous. So, yeah, it's just, I think it's time to go and figure that out, you know. Anyway, I think I've got a bartender sublocation. Let's just go and have a look here. I think it's because, Mr. Guy, you need this shift needs to be at sublocation because that's the only one you've got access to. Hold on, let's think. Right, now let's just go and see if it will run it. I'm sure it will. Ish, really? That's a bit strange. I'm going to go and play with that just now and just see why it hasn't given it to you. There must be something blocking it, maybe from a set. Well, we'll see it when we go through the settings. Anyway, that's the requirements side of things. So we can set up multiple requirements and allocate them accordingly. We can manage permissions. So we can manage that on, this is where we set up sort of custom permissions. You know, what can this specific individual see and do in the system, or that specific custom permission level. The system comes set with a couple which are standard, which is employee, manager, manager with finance, and manager with payroll, which is essentially broad stroke. An employee can only do what employees can do. Manager can see everything but not see any money. So not see any costings on the roster, not see what people earn in their profiles, etc., etc. Manager with finance means they can see all that. Manager with payroll means they can payroll an employee. So those are the basic ones that are already in the system. But then again, you can go and set up as many different permissions as effectively you want. The company settings, and this is where we're going to go and do some investigation here. So your company details is the name of the company at the top. The roster, so this is where we say, right, allow people to see full rosters. So at the moment on your app, you can only see yourself. If I switch that on, you're going to see who you're working with. I'm also going to lock employee positions. This is one of the reasons why it didn't work, that smart roster. And override published rules. This means that if there's a blockage, I can override it if I have a certain level of capability or permissions. Smart roster ranked based on employment type. So we're going to put the full-time people first, the part-time people second, and casual people third, because obviously you want to maximize the hours of your full-timers before you want to start hiring casual people, right? Yeah. You want to rank based on already rostered. So in other words, if I'm already rostered, I go lower down in the ranking because I'd rather spread the workload across the database evenly, or let the system really look into that and spread the hours out rather than overdoing one specific person. So based on fairness. Rank based on working the same location the day before or the day after. Now this one was actually developed for one of our clients in Singapore called Gardens by the Bay. So we do, I don't know if you've ever seen in Singapore these big trees. If you watch CNN or if you watch BBC and they do Singapore, you see these big trees where it's right next to that marine, the Marina Bay Sands, which is
the only thing I've ever seen in Singapore is the inside of Changi Airport.
Oh, right, mate. Okay.
As I hopped on to the next country.
Oh, well, I must tell you to go and see it because it's something else. Right, so Gardens by the Bay is this, just to give you some idea of the scope of some of our customers, right? So it's a huge park, right, in Singapore that's got these big, like, trees. You can see it on my screen, right? It's massive. It's essentially like what can I compare it? I can't actually compare it to anything. It's so out of this world. But these people employ 3,500 people, and they use Rubler Smart Rostering to roster those people, right? It's one of my success stories in Rubler that I sold this customer on Rubler. Anyway, the problem was it's in the sun. So you would have people working, outdoors the whole day for 6 days in a row. So what they wanted to do is make sure that they could, today you work indoors, tomorrow you work outdoors. So you get that spread, which was really something cool that we enabled them to do. Required qualifications. So if I have a first aid certificate that I want to collect from every employee that are on board, they can upload those certificates and documents, or matric certificate. Right, so if I have this, when I go through my onboarding, there will be another part of that onboarding that will pop up and say, give me your matric certificate, which is cool. So you can have any number of those. You can have the medical questionnaire for onboarding, extended one. You can have new message details, so you can have a default footer, default header in the onboarding side, which is cool. Proof of citizenship, so give me a copy of your ID document as well. Some of the features we've got here. So we always opt in people to the beta features, which are things that we're testing in the background, but we will never release to a customer if they don't work. But they're just the additional features that we have. Enable notifications. So if I switch this off, you wouldn't get any more notifications going to your phone or email. We normally do that through the setup process of Rubler, so that even if we set up everything and we're playing with data, we're letting the customer play, the employees are not getting emails and notifications that they're getting.
Is this a bulk feature, or can that feature be set per individual employee? Because if you terminate somebody, then you can just switch that off.
Yes, 100%. So what you can do is, you could control the notifications at the employee level, which I'm going to show you now, but this is all notifications for the whole system, and this we put that there for the purposes of setup. So you're not pinging people about their rosters when the customer's playing with it.
Yes.
Clock requires photo ID, yes or no. So if I switch this off, it's not going to ask you to take your picture. 24-hour clock, well, that makes sense. Make leave available to casual staff. So in other words, casual staff normally only have the ability to submit unavailability, but you can make annual leave available to them. But it's up to you if you do or don't want that. Enable facial verification. So that will start learning what your face looks like, Jay, over a period of time. And it's actually 5 times. So 5 shifts, 5 clock ins. The system then knows what you look like, and then by the 6th one, it will start doing the verification. Enable internal pay runs. You've seen that pay run screen. Some people want it, some people don't, because they might be doing it a bit differently. Shift swapping enabled, yes or no, so you can switch that off. Yes, Bella, you can go up to the clubhouse, it's fine. Okay, I'm in a meeting, love. Okay, I'll phone you just now when I'm done, okay? I'm in a meeting, okay? Bye.
How old is Bella?
12, bro. So she doesn't really understand. She doesn't understand anyone else's priorities except her own. You know, it's like, anyway, shift swapping enabled, yes or no. So you can shift, if they're not comfortable, some customers are not comfortable with shift swapping. In the beginning part, you can switch that on and off. Self-managed payroll, are they managing their payroll themselves, or they're getting Rubler to do their payroll? So Rubler, as a business, we have a managed payroll department. So that piece of actually processing payroll and doing a customer's payroll, we actually do that as a outsourced service if a customer wants it to be, and we'll talk about if we're going to be positioning that into your customer base or not. Allow auto approval of unavailability. So when your casual staff put in unavailability, you really don't have a say if they can or cannot, because there might be a university student, So he's putting in he can't work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but he would love to work Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But that becomes almost like a leave item, right? So it appears on the roster. So you can't book Nigel because he's actually working at university. Historical information on sales forecast information, yes or no. We'll discuss that a little bit later. Pay according to roster schedule, if you want that on or off. I've only switched it on for you now so you can use it in demo purposes. But ultimately, when you're talking about clock in, clock out, and you're using the system for that purpose, this should be no. And Charlene will go into detail with that tomorrow. Enable cost centers, which is a feature within the roster where we can set up events, and we'll talk to you about that as we get a little bit more into it. The rounding rules, the clocking rules, this will make sense to you. my shift starts at 8, ends at 5. But what happens if I come in 1 minute later, or 10 minutes later, or 30 minutes later? Do I round back? It's always in the advantage of the employer, never the employee. So it'll always work in the advantage of the employee, these settings. But you can go up to 30 minutes either way: early arrival, late departure, and which way do we round those clocks up and down. You can also set up automatic approval within the grace period. So if all of these settings are set up and the person's rostered and they come in line with this, then there's no need to approve a timesheet. It'll automatically approve when he clocks out. You'll still need to authorize it and commit it and all that, but it takes that approval process away. Apply an auto break. So for every 30 minutes for every 6 hours, as an example, it'll automatically apply a break to the system. Business intelligence. Which way are we doing it? Labor cost divided by sales, or we're doing it sales divided by labor hours. The restaurant industry is at debate about which one actually is better. They both mean the same thing, just one's based on hours and one's based on cost. And some QSR restaurants do it with sales versus labor hours, and most restaurants and sort of bigger organizations do it based on labor cost versus sales. Workflows. Ooh, sorry, buddy. It's been a long day. Workflows. You don't need to worry about these for now. They're more Australian related. Integration URLs. So URLs. This is for that benefits screen. When I say we've got various integration layers. So Scout is an ATS, an applicant tracking system, where you do interviews and all that process. Mm-hmm. Now, if you've got a Scout account, you can go and put your Scout account here, and it will then integrate Rubler with that Scout account. From an employee benefits point of view, this is early wage. We're working on something nicely with the guys from Pay Me Now, Brian Habana and the team. Mm-hmm. So Brian Habana started his own business called Pay Me Now, and this business does early wage disbursements. So in other words, if I've worked 20 hours already and it's Wednesday, I can take 10 hours and get that money paid out to me now, because maybe I need a taxi or whatever it may be. But it's little bits of money, and it sort of nicely fits with our industry. But there is some kickback on it in the fact that it appears as like a payday loan, and then a lot of customers don't want to sort of get involved with that. But it does take the cash flow risk out. So we will get into this as we get a little bit more sophisticated in our approach. Don't worry about the billing side, that's still coming. MFA, so that's multi-factor authentication. And for a payroll person, permission that needs to log in, you can obviously add that person needs to log in with a 2-factor authentication. Mobile clocking, is it enabled? Yes, for all positions, or it could be just specific positions. Maybe you want most of the people to clock in on the tablet, but maybe the CEO and that they clock in via their phones or something to that effect, right? Enable mobile clocking photos, that's like what you've seen. The clocking questions, yes or no, and the shift enjoyment. When you at the end, you got to, I'm having a nice shift or whatever it may be, you can switch that on and off. Obviously my theming, I could change my primary colors across sort of a set of colors if I've got that, and I can change my secondary color in accordance with whatever I want. And then obviously my logo, which is that Tablet POS logo that follows all the different the logos throughout the systems. So that's sort of your company settings screen, and that's where sort of everything starts. You'll see that tomorrow. You'll notice that the colors changed a bit lighter green now. Yeah. In terms of my logos. Company service data. This is where we connect payroll. Charlene will talk to you about it tomorrow, although we won't focus on that just yet because we're focusing on core. Pay groups, she'll also focus on around payroll. Onboarding settings, something whereby we can add documentation to that onboarding process. So if we wanted to add an employee handbook, if we wanted to add a smoking policy to that onboarding process that you went through, this would be the area that we do it in, and this is where we would essentially upload all that documentation. It's still part of our old tech stack, and you'll notice when we go into our old tech stack, these screens take time to pop up for some reason. But actually the release on this new version of the employee onboarding stuff is coming out by the end of the week. So I might actually move on from it because it's actually the UI is going to change into our new code stack, which slows the whole fucking system down. But anyway, let me just try and reset it. By the way, I've put all these videos that we've done for the last couple of days and last week into the training portal for you. So you can always reference back to them. And the idea is if there becomes a JSON number 2 in the business, like you hire another implementation person or something like that, then the training should be quite easy. And Charlene's going to get all that also recorded every time she does stuff with you. She's going to record that process for you accordingly. So here it comes, this bloody onboarding documents thing. But we won't spend too much on this. We might just move past it because it's all going to come new in our 9.0 release for the month, for the year. Right. Expense types, this is where I can set up my expense types, entertainment claims, or whatever it may be. So I can set up all the different expense types. The leave types, I can set up all the different leave types that I want to use for the business. So annual, sick, unavailable. If I want to set up something like study leave, this can get set up. And where it says service type there, mate, can you see that?
Yeah.
So that, if you are integrated to the payroll, this is where it's going to link it to where the payroll is. So that's the categories in the payroll. And I'm just essentially linking them together. So I'm saying my study leave is the study leave in simple pay. But if it's not connected, you don't need to select a service. Is there a minimum balance? So it has to have 1. Do we make it available? Do we show the balance to the employee? Yes, 100%. And all of a sudden you'll have a new leave type if you go onto your system called, on your mobile app called study leave. Work types, not really relevant just yet. Holidays. So these are all the holidays that we have. We haven't set any up for you.
It changed every year, so you gotta manually put it in there.
So you can upload a holiday yourself, right? Or you can go and copy one from a template. I'm going to show you how we do that. So we've got this nice little section in the system called templates at the bottom here. So if I click on templates, there will be all the templates that we have across the world that we've created over time. So you see Singapore public holidays, South Africa public holidays 2222. I'm going to go and apply that to the Tablet POS company and apply. All of a sudden, when we go to your holidays in Tablet POS, there they all are.
Oh, yeah.
So, we typically do that across the whole platform at the end of the year. We go and do the 223 ones, etc. But the flexibility is that the customer can go and add their own templates or own holidays. And they might have like a company holiday that's specific for them. What that means is that when I go onto the roster, let's go to the 16th of June, I think it is. Is it the 16th of June, the next one? Yeah.
Yes.
So let's just go and see what the 16th of June looks like. There should be like a little, can you see it's got a different color there?
Yeah.
So that's because it's indicating that it's a public holiday. Cool. So holidays are done. Add device, clock applications, Default standard hours. So the default standard hours is this business a 9 to 5 business? So in other words, people can work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Or some companies only work up to Friday, right? But restaurant industry, you're going to find work Saturday and Sunday. And what are the typical hours in the day against that? So what is their day? Is it an 8-hour day, 7-hour day, 9-hour day? Depends on the business. So the default standard hours are essentially the company standard hours. Then each individual person can have their own standard hours if that is the case, right? And that's handled in the employee portal as well. The alerts we've sort of covered a bit around shifts and timesheets and what alerts you can set up as well. Blackout periods, can't take leave over December.
Yeah, correct.
Right? So you can set up blackout periods, which is cool. Notifications in the dashboard, so we can create notifications for people that log in. So, enjoy company town hall next week, Thursday, be there type of thing. So you can create a notification in the dashboard. The pay levels, don't worry about too much, more Australian and Europe. Pay tags, again, Australia, Europe. Pay rules, we kind of spoke about and how we set up those pay rules with overtime and those type of things.
Meal allowances,
pay types is all the different categories. So normal time, allowance, and overtime type of thing. Integrations, this is something we will start to approach. There are multiple integrations that we've got here, but we will get into that as we go through the onboarding and setup stage. User-defined fields. Okay, so we want to set up things like, all right, it's a laptop asset. So what this does is it allows you to select like a yes, no question, email address, a drop down, a phone number, a whole number, or just text. And this will put this into the employee's profile so that when you onboard someone, you can go and allocate him a laptop, right?
Yes,
Under his custom field and put the serial number in or whatever. So it's quite a flexible area where you can keep loads of different data. Are you married or not? That type of thing into that area. The templates we've just shown you now. Clocking questions. So those were the questions that we want to put in, sort of like, what's your temp? And this is a yes, this is a text answer. Do you want to talk to a manager today? Yes, no answer. If yes, then the manager gets a response. The next time you clock in as JW Ward, you'll actually see these questions come up now, Jason.
Are you in full uniform?
Yes, yeah.
Are your nails clean?
Yes, 100%. Any of that kind of stuff. Cost centers, we can set up multiple cost centers. So cost centers might be the FMB annual event. Right, and this annual event is 20,000 Rand. That's how much we bill in FMB. Now, how that works is that in your roster, you might allocate a roster to an individual or to a location like we have in the past, like we've built that in the past, right? But you might then publish that roster, but allocate some people to a cost center. So when I look at it by cost center, then it's going to look at it by, unfortunately, no one's going to be on this one. So everyone's on a none. But if I allocated someone to the FMB event, it would be there. So let's say I go and take this person. And put him onto the cost center FMB annual event. Can you see he's there against the annual event? So you'll be able to start to see the cost of the FMB annual event against the annual event that you've set up as a cost center. This was actually built for Togo Sun for their banqueting section.
Yes.
So they would have one banqueting room, but they might have 4 or 5 events happening in there for different customers, Pay run template, don't worry about that. And then obviously you populate demo data. That's for you, Jay, going forward in the weeks you can go to the weeks in the future and you can populate clock events, expenses, leave, yes or no, or just rostered shifts or timesheets and or sales figures. And that just helps you to populate a roster that you could show a customer without having to build it every time you're wanting to demo the solution to a new customer, etc.
Cool.
The last piece I want to show you is our reporting. So we've got a reporting module and it's growing every day. There's no payroll reporting because that's in the payroll itself. But we've got quite a few like employee reports, which Charlene will go through tomorrow, how these come together and how you can report on them. But there's some more standard like TNA reports, who's late, so lateness report, clocking history report, clocking questions and follow-up questions. So if anyone answers yes to that manager thing, I can kind of see who has. And that was obviously there from an audit perspective. So, is your temperature 36? I need to find out, when you declared that type of thing.
Yeah.
And then the analysis side here is all the business intelligence stuff. So, variance by cost center, by location, by position, actual versus forecasted, sales versus cost numbers. So there's some nice reports in here. What you'll notice about all the reports is that they're all downloadable in Excel. But that would be, our weekly forecast versus actual for the Monday the 23rd to the 29th. So there's my total wages, my labor efficiency, and that's how I'm running the business and what I'm running the business at in terms of its efficiency calculations. We're currently building more reports at the moment, some more HR related type reports and those type of things as well. So Joe, that's basically settings as well as some of the reporting. That sort of concludes what I need to show you before you get Charlene's onslaught tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
So I'm gonna download this video, put it in.
I've got one question for you that came from Michael.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can see it directly. Let me know when you can see it.
Yeah.
Can you see where it starts there? Can you speak to Rubler?
Where's that?
You're looking at the Slack message between Mike and me.
Oh, can you speak to Rubler about what?
Well, read it.
Okay, ask them if we run with Rubler at the office for free. Yeah, sure. Yeah, so no problem, bud. I mean, you can use your demo account if you want. We just said, I think we actually we'll set up a tablet POS corporate office account.
Cool.
So yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
Actually,
Mauritius, so he sent that out to me this morning while he was sitting having his third or fourth beer, probably.
you know what, mate? So I'll speak to Charlene now, send her a voice note. When she's going through the implementation, let's do that. Because you guys use Simple Pay.
Yes.
As your payroll product. So we can actually connect it already. So your team will be able to see their pay slips. Well, everybody at Tablet POS will have access to Rubler on their apps.
Yeah.
And they can see their.
We'll set up Western Cape office as the trial. Yeah.
I'll send her a voice note, tell her that should be the idea of the implementation.
Yeah, in my response to Michael, I said I would bounce it off you, and if you say it's fine, then I'm sure Charlene can start the process tomorrow.
I think she must base the implementation off that idea. So the first customer is Tablet POS, and she's now going to set your current Simple Pay up with your.
I'll be watching everything.
Yes, 100%. I think so.
Cool.
Okay, all right, buddy. Well, look, good luck for tomorrow. I'll touch base with Charlene in the morning and see how she's making it through. But yeah, looking forward to the next 2 days, and I'll catch up with her in the afternoon and maybe yourself and just see how it's going.
Oh, good.
Sounds good, man. Have a good afternoon.
You too, mate. Take care.
Cheers, bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.